Hello and welcome to Vendor Trash. Is the title a reference to my opinions, my drawing skills, or both? That's for you to decide. An interesting phenomenon that I've noticed in recent years is that, more and more, WoW seems to be placing an emphasis on showering us with rewards. Lots of rewards. For anything and everything that there is to do in the game. It's not entirely surprising. Gaming as a whole has shifted in this direction, and it's easy to see why. Everybody loves getting rewarded for their accomplishments. Like, duh. Intrinsic motivation is great and all, but it doesn't hurt anybody to give us a little bling bling for our efforts too, am I right? Well, sure, but that doesn't mean we need 50 bajillion rewards for our efforts either. The largest instigator here may have been battle passes, which, depending on the game, could be offering up over 100 different rewards every season. Today, I'm going to briefly touch on some of the ways this reward inflation has manifested, first in cosmetics, then in actual player power, and then discuss if this is even a bad thing and what the alternative could be. So let's start the discussion off with cosmetics and collectibles, because this is definitely where the trend has become most apparent. Two recent WoW events have made this particularly palpable. First off, we had the month-long Collector's Bounty event, which basically doubled transmog drop rates in all pre-Dragonflight dungeons and raids, and set all mount drops from them at, generally, about 5 times the normal drop rate. I benefited from it a little bit, and others benefited from it a lot. I've complained in the past that I'm not a fan of depreciating these rewards, and I stand by that. But what matters here is the event didn't actually give us anything new to do. In fact, in the long run, it took away content, because now you're far less likely to need to ever run most of those old instances again. And I don't think for a moment that the event was implemented as some sort of benevolent desire to give us Christmas in July. No, it came during the relatively uneventful period between Undermine and Koresh, and was meant purely to maintain engagement. But honestly, the offerings from that event feel absolutely Spartan compared to Mop Remix and Legion Remix, which for whatever inane reason felt the need to throw every rare item from their respective expansions onto a vendor, along with an absolute smorgasbord of new rewards. Seriously, even ignoring the returning items, each one added over 30 new mounts. For an event that lasts like 3 months, obviously I'm more triggered by all of the old farms that got completely cannibalized for the sake of firing off our neuroreceptors, but I'm willing to acknowledge I may be a bit of a fuddy here. But seriously, over 30 new mounts, and that's not even counting all of the other reward types. I'd like to compare that to the mounts available from each expansion according to Simple Armory. These numbers aren't perfect, as many mounts are located under other categories like racial and professions, but you still get a general idea. Vanilla, 6. The Burning Crusade, 31. Wrath of the Lich King, 40. Cataclysm, 24. Miss of Pandaria, 51. Warlords of Draenor, 46. Legion, 74. Battle for Azeroth, 99. Shadowlands, 163. Dragonflight, 88. The War Within, 93. So a definite upward trend. Shadowlands looks particularly egregious since so many rewards were split across 4 covenants, and due to all of the protoform synthesis mounts. Plus, Dragonflight and the War Within's numbers don't include trading post mounts or, as we were just discussing, remix mounts. We got approximately as many completely new mounts from Mop Remix as we got from the entirety of Cataclysm. That is insane. And, you know, I can also point to things like shop mounts and whatnot, but I think we pretty much all agree those aren't the best way to add things. So clearly, cosmetics and collectibles have become a carrot that Blizzard is far more willing to utilize as time has progressed. But it's not the only one. Gear and player power have been handled similarly. One example that I think many players would bring up was AP from Legion and BFA, which essentially functioned as an endless source of player power available from nearly all current content, albeit at greatly diminishing returns. Due to that fact, as well as heavy catch-up mechanics, I don't really feel like it counts myself. AP never motivated me to do a single dang thing, but I know it did motivate others, so I thought I should mention it. One change that's really stood out to me is just how accessible tier sets have become. I swear that back in the day, and I don't mean vanilla here, it wasn't uncommon to take 2 months to complete your 4 set. Nowadays, it's considered a bit of an oddity to not have it by week 3. I mean, it usually takes me like 4 to 5 weeks, but that's because I pass on all loot if anybody else at all needs it. This change has emerged as a combination of factors. Not only can you get tier as a regular drop, but many players can and will grab it out of their weekly vaults, and any gaps they may have can be catalyzed into as of Dragonflight, provided you still have catalyst charges. Speaking of the Great Vault, that's an extra piece of high-end loot available to players every week. Sure, its usefulness is somewhat tempered by RNG, but only so much. It's become pretty commonplace to earn 1 to 3 slots of myth track gear by completing plus 10s, or whatever equivalent there was at any given time. That means that any average quality, run-of-the-mill player like me who doesn't bother with mythic rating or super high key levels will, regardless, become kitted out in gear from the highest upgrade track available over the course of a season. True, Mythic Raid offers up a lot more loot a lot more quickly, and include a few particularly lucrative chase items we can't just get out of Dungeon Vault slots, but still. Speaking of upgrade tracks, that's another system that's been implemented that gives us much more frequent rewards. Now, upgrades have been around for quite a long time in one form or another, but Dragonflight is when the current system of it being applicable to all gear all the time came about. Due to this system, up to a point, pretty much every raid boss or dungeon clear will result in a small item level increase. Usually 3 eye level on one item equates to just over 1/6 of an eye level on average. More importantly, it makes your gear feel closer and closer to being maxed out, which is always a good feeling. I did a whole video about how great I think the upgrade system is. In addition to the satisfaction it provides players, it helps to serve as a built-in way to slowly nerf content, although that now works in tandem with the periodic 3% buffs we've been getting from the Raid Renown tracks. I know the tone of this video probably portrays all of these increased rewards as a bad thing, but I don't think that's universally the case, and this is definitely one of the best uses of it. Sort of building upon this, both Season 2 and Season 3 of The War Within featured Turbo Boost, which translated to 2 extra upgrades per slot, or 6 eye level, ultimately requiring 30 gilded crests per slot. It came about 16 weeks into Season 2 and only 8 weeks into Season 3. This was yet another way to make players feel rewarded by increasing their power through their efforts. I'm not a big fan of this one though. I generally don't ever like the policy of making things easier toward the end of a season or event, as it makes doing anything before that speed up feel like wasted effort. I basically stopped trying to push keys in Season 3 once I could farm 10s for my vault, because why would I stress myself out over it when I can try again in a few weeks with me and everybody else having an extra 6 eye level to smooth everything out. I realize crests are capped in general at the start of a season, but I never really ran into the gilded cap anyway, so Turbo Boost feeling explicitly time gated feels way more like a player retention tactic. But given its consecutive appearances now, I fear it may be here to stay. Somewhat coinciding with Turbo Boost, we also had the puzzling cartel chips that could be redeemed for lucrative raid and dungeon loot, generally trinkets and other special items with effects. Raid loot would be of hero track, with myth track being available only if you'd killed the boss that drops it. Dungeon loot would require clearing everything on a 12, so as far as KSL was concerned, it really only helped you on those 5 or so 13s you needed. Technically, this also existed during the Fated and Awakened seasons at the end of Shadowlands and Dragonflight as dinars, but The War Within implemented it in Season 2 and 3. Bearing that in mind, it's likely also a feature that may be sticking around fairly consistently. I really don't care much about them either way. It was basically bad luck protection for a few slots that you had to earn anyway. It felt utterly inconsequential, and I really couldn't understand why everyone was so bothered about possibly not getting them after they'd been data mined. But it is another reward that's dangled in front of us, so onto the list it goes. And I'm sure there are other things that I've forgotten that all feed into the growing beast of extrinsic motivation we all subscribe to, but I've yet to really dive into the question of if this is even a bad thing in the first place. Certainly I've implied that, why would I make this video otherwise? Yet, to give the most boring, fence-sitting answer possible, I think it depends, and is something that's good in moderation. I really don't see any harm in us getting rewarded for doing things. That's kind of basic game design. That's kind of basic human motivation. Heck, one could argue that's what makes games appealing over real life. The fact that effort put in leads to predictable benefits received. And I myself have often stated that Blizz can just stick a mount reward on almost any content they push out, and I'll happily do said content. I think I just start to get wary when it feels way overdone, as I highlighted when talking about remixes. Maybe throw a small handful of rewards on there, enough to get us to check it out, or even perhaps to push ourselves. But we don't really need the literal hundreds of rewards being offered from them. I compare it to the Insane title back when achievements were first implemented. Sure, the component reputations had some unassuming rewards themselves, but pretty much all you were getting out of that grind was a single title and some maxed out reputation bars. Similarly, it bothers me when old stuff gets devalued as just a short-term carrot for players to chase. So then, what's the alternative to all of this? What do we do, and what does Blizzard do if there aren't a ton of rewards involved? Well, the answer to that is quite obvious. We can simply look to the past when there weren't a ton of rewards involved. Or rather, when the rewards were more intrinsic. Why did we play in vanilla, for example? I don't think many of us did it to get BIS or to get every collectible in the game. I mean, shoot, collectibles weren't even really a thing given that anything we'd want to hold on to would take up bag space. Why did we do it then? Well, for the novel experience, of course. The satisfaction of making our way from a lowly initiate with one ability and an auto attack into a proper hero of our people. The marvels of experiencing different quests and exploring new lands. The thrill of discovering something we didn't yet know about the game. And yes, occasionally finding out about a really cool reward and working our way towards that particular golden goose. On that note, Goose Mount win, Blizzard? Obviously, it's a bit disingenuous for me to imply we can go back to that almost completely intrinsic motivation of days gone by. It's unlikely the game could have even maintained it without having twice the development time for any given expansion. But I do think that shifting design philosophy hasn't helped to curb the trend either. Our characters don't feel like they're growing when leveling is so quick and we're decked out in epics 2 weeks into the expansion, and every NPC is referring to us as champion and the like. The world isn't this vast mystery to explore when we're zipping around at 800% flight speed. I'm not saying we need to fully adopt a vanilla-esque game design, but we don't have to be sitting at the other, modern extreme either. Maybe we don't need to fly day 1 of the expansion. Maybe we only need 1 or 2 mount rewards for playing Remix. Maybe we just need the brakes to be pumped a little bit. Because I don't want my favorite game to start feeling like some dopamine printing TikTok analog. I want it to feel natural. I don't know, maybe this is all just in my head and I'm concerned over nothing substantive. I completely accept that that may be the case. And I know you can create that feeling yourself if you're willing to do so. The onus is not completely on Blizzard to address this concern. I mean, I have a group of WoW friends that push keys throughout the whole season for no reward other than the sense of achievement and a slightly bigger M+ rating. And heck, there's no good reason I can't just challenge my friends to more foot races across Azeroth, just for the thrill of it. This week's drawing, if you've been watching the video, may have been extremely confusing to you, because I decided to round off my drawings of the Incarnates by depicting Raszageth, who, as we all know, never officially received a visage form. I mean, we don't even know if she ever had one. But that always really bothered me, and also I didn't really want to draw her dragon form, so I just whipped one up myself. Obviously, I tried to make sure to incorporate the elements and colors of her dragon form, as well as making her look a bit unhinged as the murderous psychopath she sort of is. You know, stitched clothing, some asymmetry, those sorts of elements. And I know Blizzard could do a lot better, but I'm pretty content with what I came up with. And I depicted her in the Vault of the Incarnates, specifically the platform where she empowers Dathia, just because it was the most wind, lightning, storm-oriented section of the raid, as well as the one that matched her color palette the best. And I think Raszageth was a really enjoyable character. She wasn't super deep or super unique, but she was fun without ever getting annoying. And sometimes that's all you need out of a character. I also enjoyed reading about her relationship with Viranoth. The two were pretty close friends, bonding over their fondness of storms. Even though Raszageth was keeping a lot of the murdering people stuff hidden from Viranoth, it was still oddly endearing in a way, and I like that Viranoth adopted the moniker aspect of storms as tribute to her fallen sister. That'll do it for this video though. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you next week. Bye-bye!